and cassava, those were not sophisticated foods. So they were eating foods that the European, you know, exported to the country. So as part of the cultural trust, we also had to learn about the Caribbean. I remember my assignment at one time was to know everything about Jamaica. So I knew all the mountains in the east of Jamaica. We also taught people to appreciate our own culture in terms of music and art. So in this regard, we did like art exhibitions. We initiated a calypso show. I think it's important to talk about this because I think this is an important part of our Caribbean dialogue. In Trinidad and Tobago, calypso was only played around Carnival time, which is like from early January to whenever Carnival came, whether it was the end of February or early March. And for the rest of the year on the radio, it will be European and American music, mainly American music. And we felt that was a contradiction, that here it is, our artists, voices of the people, they couldn't live but for 3 months of the year. So we started a series of calypso shows, right, as part of our cultural trust called Black Traditions in Art. And that show, believe it or not, it started in the house of a member. He had a really big house. And we will have these calypsonians come there and sing. We'll charge a small contribution. We call it a contribution. And we'll sit on bags. People will sit on bags, crocus bags, and listen for a concert for 2 hours to these calypsonians. And it was the first time in the history of Trinidad and Tobago that calypso was played outside of the carnival season, right? Because the Catholic Church banned it as evil and it can't sing calypso in Lent and so on. So anyway, so we did this under this member's house. Then we took it to at one point to the city hall, right? And we had to convince the calypsonians that they could sell out city hall because they didn't believe that people would listen to them. And when we took the first show to city hall, we had to run it like 3 nights because people were looking, people like calypso. So that became a feature, and then other promoters got into it. So now you can go anytime in Trinidad and hear a calypso show. But that was important because that was part of our cultural trust. So it was the art, it was food, it was clothes, right? We even launched a campaign against Christmas, which people thought we were crazy because we felt that people were too consumer oriented for Christmas, buying things that they didn't need. And we launched a campaign called the Christmas Trust to educate people on doing something different. Instead of buying foreign whiskey and doers and make your own wine. So people started to make fruit wine, and today that is still an industry in Trinidad. So these are the methods and the approaches from an indigenous, or what I think Chavez called it, endogenous perspective, that we have to use to revive our societies. We have to eat what we grow, right? You know, and love what is ours and not anybody else's own. And so that is how, to answer your question, I am so familiar with calypso and other musical forms in the Caribbean. It's not, I'm just not, I'm also familiar with reggae and even Haitian music and so on, you know? So you have a lot of us who know about Taboo Combo and other Haitian bands and drummers from Haiti would come to Trinidad because we felt that that cultural part was very important to any liberation theory or any liberation ideology. This is why we eventually changed our names and adopted our African names.
Respect to that, Brother Ako. Even though I may have bullet points and why won't we talk about 2025. Brother Pierre, I know we're looking at the 15th anniversary of the, I believe it was a 7.0 magnitude earthquake that I believe killed over 200,000 Haitians and left about 1 million dead. What has been the impact in 2025? And picking up on where Brother Ako ended off, the importance of culture within Haitian society as a part of the resistance of our people.
Yes, and I want to pay tribute to all the victims of that earthquake, which occurred on January 12th, 2010. It was close to 5 p.m. I think it was about, uh, yeah, a few minutes before 5 when the earthquake struck. And it was just terrible. And it's estimated that over 300,000 people were killed in that earthquake. It struck near Port-au-Prince, and it covered the entire southern part of the southern peninsula, and the city of Jacmel was destroyed. My aunt's house was destroyed. She lived in Jacmel, beautiful home, just gone, and so many others. And so many people were left homeless, as you said, about 1.5 million, maybe more, adding to a problem of homelessness that had been there before, adding to many other problems that had been there before. So it was a terrible thing. And let's put it in the context also of the many, in the past 21 years in Haiti, we had the coup of 2004, which killed over 10,000 people and made more victims. Then this earthquake took place, where so many, I mentioned 300,000 people were killed and so many made homeless. And in 2016, we had the terrible Hurricane Matthew, you know, and that's when we look at the climatic changes that are occurring. Hurricane Matthew devastated the southern peninsula in Haiti, including my hometown of Lekai. And in August of 2021, we had another big earthquake that devastated the southern peninsula again, compounding this problem that was in 2021. So what we are seeing, it's been a series of man-made disasters and natural disasters. The most recent man-made disasters have been the so-called gangs or the death squad, the reign of terror. So as people were trying to rebuild from the ravages of the earthquake and the hurricanes, and here come those gangs, kidnapping people, invading their homes, burning entire neighborhoods. So now it's estimated that just last year alone, close to 6,000 people were killed by those so-called gangs who are actually death squads, and over 1 million people displaced. You see, particularly in the areas of the Department of the West, which is where Port-au-Prince, the capital city, is, in areas near Port-au-Prince, and also in the Artibonite region, which is a big rural, big agricultural region of Haiti. And so these are the many setbacks that have occurred in the country for the past 21 years, devastating to our people.
And then I was also asking how, and we'll flesh this out some more, Brother Pierre.
Yes.
How is culture used as a part of the resistance of Haitian people?
Yes, no, I'm glad you reminded me of that. Culture, and listening to Brother Ako talk about it, it mirrors what was going on in Haiti. For example, we have music racine, which is something, or roots music to describe it in English. And roots, of course, it relates to going back to our roots, to our African traditions, the kind of genre of music with the drumming, the percussion, and all that, closer to the music that we were made to look down on. It was the music of the people of the countryside, what some people may refer to as voodoo music. And it was also looked down upon. But then some young people, during the period of the movement against the Valier, people were going back to the roots of Haitian culture. And the culture played a big role. One of the significant things was the Creole, our Creole language, which President Aristide, when he came to power, when he was elected, Creole had become, by the people's movement, had become a second official language in Haiti after the overthrow of Baby Dr. Valley. Creole became a second official language along with French, even though the majority, over everybody in Haiti speaks Creole. Only a tiny minority speak French, but it was retained as one of the two official languages. So one of the greatest things that happened to me, and to many of us, was when President Aristide went to the UN to address the UN for the very first time as president in September 1991, he spoke in Creole. And they had to get him a translator to translate Creole that he was speaking. And the man is fluent in at that time, 8 languages, now a lot more. But he insisted that there be a Creole translator so that the Creole he spoke was translated into other languages, which was a mark of where we were. And he took the oath of office in Creole. So that was part of the whole movement, along with the music and the culture of Haiti, which empowered the Haitian people, which made us feel that we were somebody. And our dignity, the term dignity, which President Aristide loves to use, and the movement that's adopted, it means all of that, being proud of who we are as a people and being dignified. Haitian artists came out very strongly after all of those major things that I had mentioned, calamities, and they were very instrumental in keeping the people's spirit alive, both in terms of jokes, in terms of the murals that they had, in terms of the songs to uplift people and to make us feel, yes, we can win that, we can rebuild the country. And today, as bad as things are, you are getting this movement that's very alive and active and giving us the sense of that we can accomplish. I just listened this morning to 2 young people who were saying, presenting a work of art and making a presentation around this anniversary, this 15th anniversary of the earthquake. It was paying tribute to the many victims, but saying that we are at a low point, and very powerfully stating that we are going to rebuild, we are going to rise from the low bottom where we are. So the art is so crucial. There cannot be any kind of movement forward or any revolution without the arts and culture.
I never looked on it that way. They're like thinking of it as culture as a cornerstone of revolution or meaningful change. But make I ask too, in thinking about it now, when we say culture, I did think about it as return to our roots, returning to our original selves as authentic African people, and so having African worldview, African value system, African ways of living, which is very different from most of the Caribbean areas, depending on who your colonizer may have been: English, French, Spaniards, Dutch. And so it's coming back to ourselves. And that, the second segment we're going to talk about Caribbean leaders. But I feel, I want to get 2 cents on this. What the phone thoughts on when we're saying culture as a part of our awareness, knowing ourselves to solve these imperialist, capitalist oppression that we were born into and continue to live. I feel like, for me, culture is a return to self. Because other than that, how else are we going to free ourselves? Make I get 2 cents, Brother Ako, and then Brother Pierre.
Well, one of the points I've made, and I made it again this morning, is that one of the things Haiti taught us, which we have not learned, is that Haiti rejected the European idea of God. You understand? Rejected the European idea of God. And this is why the struggle against voodoo is so intense. Right? Because it is not just a religion of rituals. It is an idea that says, I am going to start at a point from my own beginning, and I'm going to express ideas through this construct, right? Wherever the colonizers have been, 2 things have happened. There's a movie that Robert De Niro made. I don't remember the name of it, but it shows you where the conquistadores came and destroy you physically. And those who they couldn't destroy physically, they destroy you mentally with religion. Right? And religion is their culture. Their idea of God is their culture they impose on you. There's a very interesting book, I don't remember the author, but it's called Rituals of Possession. Patricia Seed, I think, is the author who wrote the book. And what she wrote in that book is how each European conqueror, when they came to the New World, how the rituals they performed made them possess our lands and our resources. Okay? Jomo Kenyatta in his book I think it's Facing Mount Kenya, he mentions this. He said, when the European came to Africa, we had the land and he had the book. And he taught us to pray with our eyes closed. And while we were praying, he gave us the book and took the land. And the land is the basis of our cultural heritage. Now, Seed said in her book that, like for example, when the British came to claim your land, they would plant a hedge. And once they planted that hedge, that indicates that they possess your land, no matter who was living there. It's called terra nullius, land without people. That was the doctrine. Okay. When the Spanish came, they would plant like a stake and in the ground, right? And the Portuguese, and they read an edict in the name of the king and queen of Spain. If you cross that stake, you're dead. That's their land, right? But these are cultural forms. They came, and we still have these things. You know, I ask people something, right? Why do we cut a ribbon when we go to Open Road? We don't know why we do it, but we just do it. It's a ritual that you perform, right? When you're going to sail a boat, they break a bottle of what, whiskey or something on it. All of these rituals we have inherited from these people. We repeat them all the time and have no clue. So that culture has seeped into us. And what Haiti did is to challenge all those notions and introduce our own ideas about how we should behave, right? And that is the struggle, because once you embrace your culture, you are displacing what has been imposed. And that has been a fundamental aspect of the struggle of the Haitian people that people are not understanding. We have to replace every single thing that these people imposes. Now, so some people will say, well, you know, God have no color. Well, if God have no color, why is the blue-eyed, blonde-haired man in your church? Right? So, and that's the excuse. Well, God have no color. Well, if God have no, why you see depicted as a blue-eyed man in the church with blonde hair? So we have to challenge these things, right? And we are not challenging these notions. So sometimes we change politically, we change economically, but spiritually we haven't changed. And I think that is the aspect of the Haitian people and the revolution that they are trying to destroy. That's why I think they said the 200 people they killed were voodoo practitioners. Because once that idea of a different deity exists, there will always be revolt against what exists, right? And Cabral is one of the few leaders in Africa who understood it and wrote this book called Return to the Source.
Big respect, Brother Ako. Brother Pierre, well, I know you could commune with that, because voodoo, as we understand it, is a way of life. It's not you go to church for a Sunday and special holidays. You're born into this is how we live. And I really appreciate how Brother Ako framed that. It's your total worldview of how you see your deity. It's everything is centered from an African worldview. So tell your 2 cents for that, Brother Pierre.
Yes, definitely. And as I was listening to Brother Ako, I'm flashing back to the prayer of Bookman Doty during the ceremony of Boakaïman. Boakaïman was the gathering of all the Maroons and the chiefs, the leaders of the enslaved community in 1791, on August 14, 1791, and where they came together, and Bookman made a prayer and said, let us reject the image of the gods of the whites and listen to the voice of liberty that speaks in our heart. You know, And what he met, not only the images that Brother Ako was referring to, the blue-eyed, blonde-hair man, but he also met these ideas of that come in so many forms of European colonialism that made us feel that European quote-unquote civilization or European practices are superior to ours. So he was urging people to reject all of that and look inside yourself, inside your heart, and listen to the voices of liberty. So from that time on, Haiti has survived really on this because this was the ideology of the Maroons, the ideology, and I use Maroons here in a very big, broad term to say the rebelled enslaved population. It was part of the ideology to free the land, to reject the European colonizers, kick them off the land, take the land for ourselves. It was this idea of land distribution, working the land collectively, which survives in Haiti today in the form of combit. Like when people are tilling the land, the whole community comes together. Today they help brother so-and-so till his, or sister so-and-so till her land. Tomorrow, sister so-and-so and brothers, everybody helps each other tilling the land. And that's the idea of combit, working collectively together. And this is what they've been trying to destroy. President Aristide wrote a book while he was in exile. It's called Philosophical Reflections for Mental Decolonization. And this book was written in Creole, and it was later translated into English. In Creole, it's called Poésie philosophique pour décolonisation mentale. So it was translated by his wife, Mildred Aristide, who translated it into English. And it's a very remarkable book because it goes into the whole, what they call the Black Codes. And this was the code that was a guide by the French government, which was telling the colonizers how to brainwash us, how we as Black people should behave, and how they should enforce those kinds of behaviors. So in his book, Philosophical Reflections for Mental Decolonization, President Aristide is showing how through our language, Creole, and to the response that the enslaved Africans gave to the Black codes, and how we need to continue doing that in the present day because the Black code is surviving today in our societies in so many ways. And in Haiti, since the book was written and published in Haiti in Creole, when he came back from exile in 2011, that book has formed the basis of a mass movement called mental decolonization, décolonisation mentale. And we have artists who have made songs about it. And it's been it's something that's carrying on the movement. And that's why that flame, no matter how much they try to extinguish it, cannot be extinguished. You see, I wanted to make a comment about the extraordinary numbers of people who are the victims who are killed, the 300,000 who were killed in Port-au-Prince during the earthquake. Because if you hear it, you say, oh, well, man, so many people. But there is a story behind it. And the story is what Brother Ako was saying. It's part of the war against Haiti, part of the war against the population. It has to do with the imposition of Western values, European values. What happened was the IMF and the World Bank had imposed on Haiti conditions. What were those conditions? Well, stop our own agricultural production. Haiti was self-sufficient in rice production, 1986. In the 1980s, Haiti was producing its own rice. Yes, some people may have like the taste of rice from Miami, taste of rice from, let's say, Jamaica or some other place and what to do with that rice. Yeah, so you have a choice. Okay, I'll buy it, you know. But in terms of the population of Haiti, the majority of the people, they didn't need foreign rice to feed themselves. So what the IMF and the World Bank decided, they had to stop Haitian rice production. And they put a number of measures into place so that when the US government started they were subsidizing their own rice, and they started practicing dumping in collaboration with those Haitian leader lackeys. of the US who were there. And they flooded the Haitian market with US rice. When President Clinton came to power, he was doing that in favor of the rice from Arkansas. And that flooded the market. There were other measures similar to that that took place, which killed a lot of the pork production in Haiti, was destroyed in that same way. So what happened, many peasants lost their lands, you see? And they were forced to come to Port-au-Prince to find jobs in the so-called factories that were mushrooming all around Port-au-Prince. What it was a calculated massive displacement of a once producing peasant population that was feeding the nation, that was living their life. It wasn't, I'm not saying that they were at the pinnacle of success, but they were living with dignity on their land and feeding the nation. So they had to kill their enterprises so that they could come work for substandard wages in Port-au-Prince, starvation wages. And people, once they are there, they had to live all on top of each other in hovels, in makeshift housing, and so densely populated that when the earthquake struck, it brought down so many people who were, so densely living in substandard housing that were not properly put together in places where before people would not be allowed to live because, they were very dangerous areas. But this is what created it, you see? And so that's why so many people were killed during that earthquake. So I'll stop right there to say we have to return to the source, definitely.
Thanks, Brother Pierre. That was really meaningful that you put it in a context. When you hear over 300,000 people dead, how come so much people dead? And really, it connects and it's a one of Brother Ako mantra now, that is neo-imperialism at work. Like, this is what we keep living every single day. We have to take a first break, but I definitely want to thank you for this first segment and centering the relevance of culture in our own liberation as people living in the Caribbean. I want to say the Caribbean, make remember that include Puerto Rico, Haiti, and Cuba, because regularly we not think about it in countries there when we say the Caribbean. We hardly even think of the Eastern Caribbean. We tend to think just like the next fifth, and I don't know why they have Eastern Caribbean and CARICOM. Why would I just one big CARICOM family? But when we come back after the break, I'm sure Brother Ako and Brother Pierre could probably answer that because we have to have more meaningful conversations about the Caribbean population and the people who sit and represent we like CARICOM. Remember now, we co-host the Brother Ako Mutota and with Brother Pierre LaBossiere. Stay tuned to Sunday Review. We are coming right back after this break. Welcome back to the second segment of Sunday Review, where we make sense of the news with Brother Ako and Brother Pierre. And we're having Caribbean dialogue. Listen, Brother Ako used to host one show on Atlanta radio station named Caribbean Dialogue. And he said, like it's so important that people in the Caribbean have their conversations. I think that here at the Action Committee, one thing was say, what happens behind the headlines? So I said this is a perfect conversation for Sunday Review for 2025. Usually we have conversations about news stories that Belize, but we'll expand it 2025 to be very inclusive and intentional about stories, news stories. We might make the news or not make the news, because a lot of the stories from IT will make the news that, for example, Belizean people watch is corporate colonial media, primarily from the United States. And that's not the real news. The real news that we'll get from what happened on the ground from people who to resist the continuous foreign occupation of Haiti. Anyways, in this segment, we have to talk about, during the break just now, because sometimes in a break you have some juicy conversations. So, Brother Pierre and Brother Ako, I want to bring up that part of the conversation we had just now about convict. And so I was asking Brother Pierre, right when I come back from break, is how did because the voodoo culture, people think of it as a spirituality, not as a culture, not as a way of life, not as a worldview. How that stay after 200 and plus years when there's a continuous onslaught of European values, worldview, way of life? How is it that it's still today?
Our people, our foremothers and forefathers, they brought that with them from Africa, and they passed it on from one generation to the next. And even though it's been continuously under attack by the European powers and by a little clique that claims that they are the elite of the society. And so they try to destroy the culture of our people so that they can really have people become enslaved, not only mentally, but also physically. So our people maintain that. And one good thing that happened, which is so important, is that schools, European-style schooling, didn't spread all over the country, you see. It was only limited to the cities, and within the cities to some of the members of that elite who are privileged to go to school. European education, I'm talking about. However, among the people, schooling continued, community schooling, you see, in the ways, in the culture of Africa. So what happened is everything there, the African identity, the African culture survived and kept on surviving. And it's amazing, and this is what keeps the flame going. The European powers and their lackeys, that small elite in Haiti, they know that. They knew it. And at different times, particularly in the 20s, the Catholic Church started the 20s, the 30s, and so on. They started a campaign called Rejeter, which meant to reject, and telling people that voodoo was a work of the devil, and they had to reject voodoo and their beliefs. And so they had these, it was outrageous. And some people like Jacques Roumain, who founded the Haitian Communist Party, he was in a polemic with one of the bishops or who was pushing that whole thing. And Jacques Roumain was saying no. And there was quite a number of others who stood up to this. But the people stood up to it. And they hid when the soldiers would come to raid their peristyle, their home fort, what they would do is they would hide a lot of the works. Some of the beautiful works of art produced by the artists, voodoo artists, Haitian artists, were burned, but they didn't burn everything. Some of them they took to museums in Europe, you see? And so it's been ongoing assault. Right now, what we are seeing, what we've been seeing in Haiti, is an onslaught by the evangelicals, along with a number of Catholics as well, the Catholic Church, saying that voodoo is a work of the devil, you see? And they've been trying to destroy and create that in the minds of our people, so that even music racine that I was mentioning earlier, woods music, and a number of pastors would not let their people, their congregation, even listen to it, you see? And so what I'm telling you, I saw that in California, okay? Right here in the Bay Area, I've experienced that. And we are talking today, right? I've experienced it. And I was just amazed. I couldn't believe. At the time, it was about 20, that experience occurred around 2019, 2018, and I couldn't believe I was seeing this. So would you believe that at the place where Boukman, the place of Bois-Caïman, in 1991, on the 200th anniversary, one pastor stated that Boukman was the devil and tried to build a church on the site of Bois-Caïman, a sacred site for the Haitian Revolution. So this is how the brainwashing is continuing and continuing and continuing. So hats off to our sisters and brothers in Haiti for keeping the flame of our culture alive. And even though they suffer a lot, as Brother Ako had mentioned, at different times you've had pogroms or killings organized by the evangelicals. They work people into a fever pitch to attack spiritual people, voodoo people, and with that kind of mess. So I'll stop right there, but this is the fight that the Haitian people are engaged in to keep our culture, because our culture is really where the change for a new Haiti will take place.
Respect, Brother Pierre. Brother Ako, you had started out this morning introducing the importance of culture in the liberation of our people in the Caribbean, focusing for me specifically on African people. And last week I mentioned about political awareness and economic awareness. And I think last week we mentioned both, yeah, you did, about the credit unions and cooperative entities that now they want to make into like banking institutions. So I want you and Brother Pierre go over, I don't remember what you said in Cali at Trinidad, but Brother Pierre said in Cali, conbit the IT. Because it's these indigenous ways of living is how we're going to survive, if we are to survive. So what in Cali at Trinidad, Brother Ako?
Gayap.
Gayap. And what do you mean?
Well, working together. Right? And then there's all called lend hand, which is a corruption of lender hand. Yeah.
You said with lend hand, the material is provided.
Sometimes the material is provided by the family who's building the home, and the labor is provided by the community. Sometimes collectively, the community provides both the material and the labor, the land assistance. It's called, right?
I don't know if there's such a system in Belize, because I just don't know. So if anybody know, or text me and tell me. But I know in the Maya community, they have such a system. It start with I forget what it think. My mind it just gone from my mind just now. Forget what I'm calling. I think even in the Garifuna community, I think they have that system where either monthly the community come together and they do community work as a collective, or if they attach a roof, they come together and they touch the roof, and then when there's somebody else turn for touch, then go there. But those are value systems that we don't even hear about or remember. And definitely don't practice as much anymore, because we're so adapted to the European ways of go to a bank or credit union, go borrow our money, or go put up your something for collateral, and then end up paying more than the collateral and the value of the property. By the time you don't pay, they almost 30 years later. This segment we want to focus some more on Caribbean betrayal. of other Caribbean people in particular. And I sent to Harlan, there's this story that I found as it relates to Grenada, for the Grenada invasion. And this is from Air Force Historical Support Division, 1983, Operation Urgent Fury. I just want to read this up on the third paragraph. Is it the third paragraph or the fourth paragraph? Where is it? Oh my goodness. I think it's the third paragraph that I had it. It talked about how many people were, no. I had my thing marked. Well, I'm good enough. Anyways, it spoke about them going to, here you go. All right. It says, the USAF, which is the United States Air Force, also encountered difficulties with the short length and limited ramp space at Grenada's airports, causing many tanker and transport aircraft to use staging bases, such as in nearby Barbados. So that's an example of a Caribbean country being active in the destruction of another Caribbean country. And then I don't remember if it was in that one that also mentioned that Jamaica was used for, I think, refueling. And then we have, as it relates to IT, there's a really good Black Agenda report, IT 20 years after the coup. And what interesting is, I'm glad that Brother Pierre mentioned the Catholic Church, because in this Black Agenda report on 14 November 2003, there's a secret cable. The Vatican's Caribbean Affairs Officer Director, Gregorio Lingua, approaches U.S. Embassy officials to ask for further international pressure on Haiti. Lingua states that the problem is, quote, the presence, in fact, the omnipresence of Aristide, end quote. And then it goes on for just showing how CARICOM switch up. In February 26, 2004, as the threat looms of an armed attack on Haiti's government by the small band of U.S.-sponsored Haitian paramilitary soldiers led by Guy Felipe, CARICOM, the organization representing the 15-nation Caribbean community, appeals to the United Nations Security Council for the help of international peacekeeping forces to protect the Haitian presidency and Haitian sovereignty. France, a permanent member of the Security Council, flatly rejects the call. And then it goes on to show again on February 27, 2004, CARICOM quietly negotiates with some friendly nations to provide arms, ammunition, and riot control gear for the under-equipped Haitian National Police to protect President Aristide. And then here we come now in 2023 that CARICOM put out one statement on multinational force to support IT. The Caribbean community welcomes the decision taken by the governments of the Bahamas and Jamaica to join Kenya to contribute to a multinational force in the Republic of Haiti to assist that nation to counter its security challenges. Brother Ako and Brother Pierre, under the Langarami, under this work Langarami, what of only lived experience on the betrayal of Caribbean leaders to the country of Haiti and our sisters and brothers? What of only take?
Yeah, want to speak first?
Go ahead, brother. That's
All right. So you mentioned a number of things. You mentioned Haiti and you mentioned Grenada, right? Which we're going to try to do. Relative to Haiti, because of Haiti's example, and as two countries have that reputation in the Caribbean, Haiti and Cuba, because of the example they set in terms of challenging Western hegemony, imperialism and colonialism, you have to understand that Haiti, in terms of an idea, was like a superpower when when the revolution came to power in 1804. It terrified the United States, fearing that the plantations would be on fire, right? I have said to people that, relatively speaking, in terms of where the Haitians came from, the Haitian Revolution possibly was more important than the French Revolution. I certainly think it was more important than the Russian Revolution of 1917, but people don't see it that way. because they talk about how the Russian Revolution changed Europe. The Haitian Revolution changed the world. Haiti challenged the entire Western world, all the great powers of the world. And those who have been schooled and educated in the West are trained to serve the interests of the West. So they always saw Haiti as a threat. And their default position was always to betray Haiti. That's the default position. Haiti can never trust. I mean, not even the great Bolivar, who Haiti supported, right, stood up to Haiti when it mattered, right? So you know, there's a way Haiti has been alone because of what it represents, right? You know, that what I call unyielding blackness. You know, it's a statement. What's his name? Leron Bennett made in a book he called "The Challenge of Blackness," and he said that if blackness is worth preaching, it is worth living, and those of us who are not prepared to live it have no right preaching it. Okay, so Haiti lived blackness in its constitution. It's his attitude. I mean, you read a constitution that said any African person who landed in Haiti was free. Okay? Europeans could not own land, right? That is called an unapologetic, unyielding blackness, right? And here we have in this Caribbean of these French Creoles and Spanish Creoles, because that's what they were. The Creoles were the early Europeans, the descendants of the Europeans in this hemisphere, right? So I think, right, we remember last week I spoke about Martin, the first Creole was Cortez, the woman Malinche, who had a child with Cortez, and he was the first mestizo mixed breed, and right. So, but the Creoles were different. The Creoles were the descendants of Spanish Europeans and French in the case of Trinidad and Haiti and Haiti. They were those people, and so that Creole element sided with the European when this was convenient, right? This is why they created this shades of black in Haiti, octoroon, quadroon. I think it was 8 or 9 shades of black, right?
That's correct.
Yeah, octoroon was ectoroon, sexroon, quadroon, quinteroon was flat black, and so on. That Creole element and those mix decided when it was convenient with the colonizers. You understand? And that is where this history of betrayal comes. And so they would be the ones schooled in the religion of the colonizer, educated by the colonizer. So that betrayal runs deep in Caribbean societies relative to Haiti, right? Based on that conditioning, and also on the fact that Haiti is unapologetic black. I mean, most times I would meet Haitians, right? And I would see a brother and say, "You're from Africa?" But he said, "No, I'm from Haiti." you think a Haitian is African because they are Africans, right? They're some of the purest blooded Africans in the Caribbean. You understand? And the gate, the movement, everything. And that kind of unapologetic blackness really terrifies the Bronx and the misbreeds and so on in the Caribbean, right? So this betrayal of Haiti is part of the history of the ruling elites in the Caribbean, and Haiti has to learn that is the case and deal with them accordingly.
Yes, and I want to support that, to say that we have the same ruling elite in Haiti that is called in being hateful towards African people in Haiti. And also they take our children, the children of the formerly enslaved Africans, and brainwash them to view their parents as being inferior and as their enemies. So what's happening right now on the ground, as we are seeing on these so-called, what the press call gangs, but we call death squads, in the pay of imperialism and the ruling elite, is that kind of hatred, that and the recruitment of some of our young people who, and let me say this. There has been a number of reports by the UN and other agencies saying how those death squads, those gangs are recruiting teenagers, basically, or people in their early 20s within those ranks. But you see, it was a direct result of the coup d'etat of 2004 and a direct result of the campaign against the communities, against the population of Haiti that has led to this. When President Aristide was in office, Lavalas government of President Aristide, they created schools, you see, for our young people. They provided opportunities. They opened the doors of the various government enterprises and ministries and to hire young people, providing 70% subsidies for books, for uniforms, school uniforms, for tuition, to all kinds of schooling, vocational schools and what have you. They provided all of that. Then there was also literacy centers for people, for the adults, so during which many people learned to read and write. Young people had something to look forward to, see, in terms of the development, the rebuilding of Haiti and the development of Haiti. But what happened since the coup, all of that was eliminated. All of those centers for homeless children were eliminated. So what you had is 20 years later, you have those same children whose parents, whose families were wiped out, you see, who grew up on the streets and now who have been recruited. And it was by design, because President Aristide and the Lavalas movement and the people of Haiti had seen that. You see, they said, look, our children are our own. Culturally, we need to take care of them. But all of that was completely destroyed. And so we are ending up right now with children, with a generation that has grown up on the streets without a society overall caring for them in the wake of massive natural disasters and also man-made disasters, so that they become prey to these kinds of influences, negative influences by the imperialists who recruit them against the very society. So you see, this is something that has to be looked at and looked at in terms of the aftermath of the not only the coup d'etat of 2004, but the natural disaster that had occurred. Also, I wanted to add something else too. When the Lavalas government was there, President Aristide had created the Lavalas government of President Aristide as well. They had created a group to respond, an agency to respond to natural disasters, because we are prone to many hurricanes. One devastating one happened in 2016. That was Hurricane Matthew. There were others before that. 2004, this whole team, national team of people to deal with natural disasters was completely, many were killed, went out of the country, no more training. The warehouses that were set up were looted. They were burned by none other than Guy Philippe, who you talked about earlier. Guy Philippe was the guy who the CIA had armed back in 2002 and unleashed against the Haitian population, similar to Jimmy Cherizier today, who, by the way, barbecue wants Guy Philippe to be president. You see, this is the kind of nonsense that's going on. So that whole team that was there to respond to disasters was eliminated. So what happened when the hurricane came, Matthew, there was no organized structure nationally to respond to the needs of the population. And again, when the earthquake came, then later on the cholera epidemic that was unleashed by UN troops defecating in the main river, or Tibonite River, and that spread all over Haiti. So all of that are a result of the man-made disaster that in 2004. And that's something that's not part of the story that is being told about the earthquake or present-day Haiti.
Thanks, Brother Pierre and Brother Ako. We have to take our final break. But when we come back, I want to ask Brother Ako and Brother Pierre, what is the solution? What can people in the Caribbean do to take ownership of our own liberation? Because this know the work. It never designed for work. I know the work for it. Stay tuned, break time.
Tired of replacing light bulbs? LEDs are what you need. LED
area. 110% release and proud of it. No, tell me about maritime area. Long time ago, agreement by the slave master. Talking about the head and the billies and dollar because patriot. To know Guatemala. Follow me now. This time we don't figure. Nobody give it to no Guatemala. This time my name is Pupa. Billies me come from the Billy City area. 110% release and proud of it. No, tell me.
Welcome back to the final segment of Sunday Review with Sister YaYa, Brother Pierre, and Brother Ako. We're having a Caribbean dialogue conversation in solidarity, in particular with Haiti. It's the 50th year of the anniversary of the earthquake that struck Haiti. And Brother Pierre, a Haitian activist and co-founder of Haiti Action Committee, to share the impact of that earthquake, and not just from the physical earthquake itself, but what happened before the earthquake, what continued to happen with the complicity of what I call one core group who don't have no right for the govern one independent country and remove one democratically elected president, President Aristide. If we remember, and ended up with the core group, primarily the United States, the United Nations, Canada, France, and a number of Caribbean countries, such as Belize, were agreed to send Belizean BDF soldiers to Haiti to be part of the continuous occupation of an independent country. And then we have Brother Ako. He's knowledgeable when it comes to anything, when it comes to anti-imperialism, what decolonization really means, from lived experience, because Brother Ako, elder no, he do this for his youth. Brother Ako and Brother Pierre, we have another 21 minutes. I'm going to ask, what is the solution? I know that believes you that say, listen, the people who are most impacted, in a survival mode, and in a survival mode, then they try become knowledgeable, then just to survive. And when I say people they suffer, they don't study about becoming knowledgeable. And what you say when I say that, Brother Ako?
Before I just wanted to make one comment on something Pierre said about the disaffected youth in Haiti. Okay, and it is a policy by imperialism to do that. This woman, Naomi Klein, in her book, The Shock Doctrine, she speaks about how part of the process of destabilization is to create chaos. So they create chaos in the society through drugs, through infectious diseases. And when you create this chaos, they create the chaos, then they come and offer you the solution. And when they get in there, they undermine you further. Right? So your listening audience may want to read The Shock Doctrine. It's a very important book. And also The Confessions of an Economic Hitman, which is another book that deals with how they create economic chaos to destabilize the society. You know? And what was the question you asked me?
I'm going to say to you during break, when people suffer, they're not
the solution, right? The solution, right? And I would say, I would make this statement, I quote Bob Marley: the only solution is a revolution. That is the solution. We have to revolt and transform all our institutions, all of it, political, economic, systems, all of that have to be transformed, right? We have bought into this very silly notion of competitive capitalism, right? And they tell you must compete and so on. If you check human history, there is no civilization in the world that was developed based on competition. Because it developed and advanced based on cooperation. Right? You see, so to develop as a nation, to develop as a community, as a region, we must cooperate. Are there elements where you can be competitive? Yes. There are sectors where you can be. But for that to be the dominant ethic and the dominant philosophy of your economy, competition, right? Some aspect you have to cooperate. And that ethic of cooperation is manifested in what Pierre spoke about, the conbeat, in the housing, in terms of the SUSU, which we run in the Caribbean, right? The economic system, right? And so we have to look at all of these methods as solutions to our problems, right? I remember I don't know how accurate it is, but I had a session with Baina Bell, and she made a statement. She said that the cacique is not what people thought it was. They thought it was a king. She said the cacique was a council. I don't have evidence, but I'm just repeating that because we really don't know what these institutions were. She said it was a council, right, of men and women who they would sometimes appoint somebody to speak. And the European thinking through the context of kings say well the cacique was a king, right? So the point is that we have to look at whatever institutions we have in the Caribbean and see what we can learn from these institutions, right? To bring them into the modern times, into our own reality. In other words, using the past and the present to create syncretics, if you want to call it that, that can impact us in the present. We have to be very careful of what I call irrelevant traditionalism, right? Some people believe that because my ancestors were wearing in the nose 500 years ago to prove I'm an African, I have to wear a ring in my nose. If I'm walking around machines with a ring in my nose, I could lose my nose. So certain symbolic acts are not necessarily, even though they are part of the tradition, they don't have to always, they have to be relevant. So I'm saying that whatever we develop, socially, culturally, economically, politically, it must be relevant to the times because things evolve and human beings evolve. So the solution is to seek methodologies, approaches rooted in our own reality, but not ignoring modernization and what science has bequeathed us. We tend to believe that science is a property of Europeans and modernization it is not. Okay? It is the property of all humanity because all of us contributed to science. All of us contribute to modern theory. And so it doesn't exclusively belong to any one particular group of people. And this is something we have to understand as people of African descent in the Caribbean, because too many times we engage in irrelevant traditions and issues that are not relevant to modernization. So while we have to hold on to tradition, we also have to use that tradition to inform how we modernize.
Thanks, Brother Ako, Brother Pierre.
Yes. Yeah, no, thank you so much. And Brother Ako really nailed it again. It's such a pleasure to be talking to the three of you because to the two of you because a lot of knowledge and a lot of very powerful factual information is presented. One of the things I want to, in response to your question, what is the solution? For us in Haiti, as well as for the rest of the Caribbean, piggybacking on what Brother Ako said, the solution, we've had it before. It's the people coming together, working cooperatively, collectively. I'll give you an example. We have to do away, as Brother Bookman Doty said in his prayer, we have to remove these images from the white man. For example, the IMF and the World Bank. We have tried, when I say we, some of our brainwashed leaders, lucky leaders, or I should say government officials, not leaders, government officials, they believed in the prescriptions of the IMF and the World Bank and what have you. And those prescriptions, they use the Haitian military and the security forces during the Duvalier era, the Tonton Macoutes, and later on, to impose them on the population in Haiti. What it had resulted in is complete failure, complete dislocation of the society and the mess that we have today. When the Lavalas government of President Aristide came to power, they came with an ideology, with a program that was rooted in the population. And one of the first manifestations of that, to see how people responded, we can look at the inaugural of President Aristide in 91, and again, the second inaugural in 2001, where Port-au-Prince was in such a mess, the capital city was so dirty. But the people came together, and within a week, I kid you not, Port-au-Prince, the face of Port-au-Prince changed. All the trash and everything was repaired. You saw groups of young people asking people for money to fix the potholes, fixing things. I tell you, within a week, when President Aristide was the day of the inaugural, you could eat off the streets of Port-au-Prince. That's how clean the place was and how beautiful. And there was the spirit of cooperation. And the book, the program of Famille Valassi, Investir dans l'humain, investing in people, you started seeing cooperatives, rising up cooperatives of peasant cooperatives, women's cooperatives, various cooperatives, cooperative in stores, and all of that was taking place. And Haiti was being transformed. People who had fled Haiti before were coming back. So several schools were built, even though there was an embargo imposed by the US on the government of President Aristide. More schools were built, more hospitals, and more land was given to the people, to the peasant farmers. More, I mentioned earlier about the investment in education. All of that was happening on a very limited budget, even though there was an economic embargo. And it was precisely because of these achievements under the leadership of Famille Valassi, but by the people working collectively and cooperatively. That's one of the reasons, in my view, that the coup d'etat of 2004 took place, because that was a good example that couldn't be allowed for the world to see. You see how the power of the people was able to transform this country. So I think that the solution, again, is to go back, is to develop that spirit that exists among our people, to have a plan which is rooted in the needs of the population, taking into that will engage the energies, the culture, the cultural energies of our people, their creativity, and the various, their intelligence, and engage them in rebuilding the society. First thing that a Haitian who's abroad wants to do is to come back home and invest in their community, whether it's a school, whether it's in agricultural production, you name it, different things. They want to invest. And I'm sure it's the same way throughout the Caribbean, but in solutions that they, the people themselves, are bringing forth. And that's what we've seen in Haiti, and the examples abound, and they are powerful. We see a number of schools on the University of President Aristide that he and his wife Mildred have created. UNIFA, University of the Aristide Foundation, is one such a shining example. For example, there were billions of dollars. I cannot leave this show without talking about the theft of the billions of dollars. It's estimated that close to $15 billion, some say it was 11 billion, was made available to Haiti to rebuild Haiti. Well, the Clinton Bush Foundation, presided by former President Bill Clinton, had charge of all this money. You don't see anything at all that was done in Haiti by this money, except to build two luxurious hotels for the elite, you see? But other than that, the people who were displaced by the earthquake, who lost homes, people who were made disabled, continued to live in shacks, But even then, the people's resilience, they tried to build them. And now those same forces have unleashed the death squads that have burned down everything that the people tried to rebuild since that terrible earthquake. So to their shame, Bill and Hillary Clinton, who at the time she was the Secretary of State, and at the time Bill Clinton was the UN envoy, there is no accounting for all these billions of dollars that were raised that people throughout the world provided to help in solidarity with the people of Haiti. This is another. Not only did France steal our money, force us to pay about 200 years ago a ransom to the French who had enslaved us, because when we took our independence, They considered us property. They lost their property. But today, more recently, 15 years ago, during post-earthquake, we've had the theft of billions of dollars that belong to the Haitian people. They have ripped us off again. So this is what's happening. So our people are understanding that. They are looking at our past, the present, and then planning better for the future. And we call on our sisters and brothers in the Caribbean to join forces with us. When a Haitian refugee lands in your country, in one of the countries of the Caribbean, one of the islands of the Caribbean, please understand the history, what is forcing them to leave Haiti, to flee Haiti. Understand that the 21-year history that is of natural disasters and man-made disasters that is forcing our people to leave. Lend them a hand, just like our ancestors, our foremothers and forefathers appealed to sisters and brothers from all over and lend them a hand when they were fleeing persecution and enslavement, and Haiti made them citizens. And their descendants are in Haiti today, completely Haitians and flourishing. So lend them a hand. Stand with them in solidarity.
Big thanks, Brother Ako and Brother Pierre, for the detailed and comprehensive reasoning this morning when it comes to people in the Caribbean, African people specifically, as we remember the victims and the survivors of that hurricane in Haiti 15 years ago. I have one text from my good sister. She posted on Facebook, one just have to read Chinua Achebe's Things Fall Apart to understand how skillfully devious the colonizers were in undermining the religion practiced by the colonized. And I have to thank...
Chinua Achebe.
Yes, Chinua Achebe. Chinua Achebe. Yes.
Yeah.
Things Fall Apart.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know, brother, I don't know how brother Akono gather me and hold me accountable. I have 2 meetings with him this week and I missed the 2 phone calls. But if I'm listening to Brother Ako, I tell you I have to figure out a way to incorporate books that would be recommended reading to build awareness and knowledge, as well as music, because that's the thing. We have to find a way to do it. We'll figure it out. Before the month over, I'll figure it out. And so I want to thank both of you again for take time out this morning. I tell her, Brother Ako, the best thing you can do is make us start to have expanded Caribbean dialogue. It's really, really needed. And we have a sister, Cabo, from IRI FM as well, who's been doing this for decades. And what the brother name out of Washington, Brother Ako?
Juan Martin.
They've been doing, I think Martin.
Also, on the 2nd of February, we're having a Zoom event in solidarity with Haiti, part 4.
Oh my goodness. We're flying already yet?
No, they're flying already yet, but it should be out. I just checked my email and the draft came, so it should be out by the end of the day today.
Okay, good. Again, because of really that Brother Ako start this process, that we as people from the Caribbean to be intentional, we'll try to have one action at least once a month. We have one WhatsApp chat group for stay in contact with one another, for being intentional. And the beauty is that it happened from below. That within homes, communities, organizations, institutions, I would build with knowledge. I would not go with where political leaders they say, where CARICOM they say, where UN they say. We go with people to people, credible community exchange and solutions. Make a hail up my people and make it possible for them on the air today. Security guard Delroy Buckner, Harlan Wagner, Master Chief Operator at XTV, Larry G at Creme Radio. This show on repeat at 5:30 this evening. You can listen to it at any time. Oh, my sister Sonia, Alan woman there on Facebook. I think there was somebody, was there another name they gave me? They're on Facebook, so I have to go and give me up on Facebook. You can listen to this at any time at YouTube, XTV Belize, Facebook, XTV Belize. You could go to Haiti Action Committee Facebook page. Brother Ako, is there a organization that you're affiliated with that has a social media presence that you want to promote?
Not right now. Our website has some problems.
All right, no problem. And then, yes, so to continue to support all things Zinc, like Bound and Newspaper for Friday, subscribe to Iya Mandala online and continue listening to Creme Radio. You could download Creme Radio and XTV apps. Always remember, only the people want to save the people.
The people must say to you, I'm so happy to be with my brother Pierre.
Oh, my brother, such
Pierre.
a pleasure. Thank you so much.
We have to meet somewhere physically, I'm
with that. All right, Belizeans, go enjoy on a Sunday.
Right.
All right,
Thank
okay.
you so
All
much.
right.
Nobody do it to no Guatemala. This time me name is Pupa. Belize me come from the Belize City area. 110% Belize and proud of it. No, tell me about maritime area. Long time ago agreement by the slave master. Talking about the help on the Belize and dollar because patriots. All people who love them country bad love them homeland will never give it up to another nation.